Good morning and welcome back to Prayer and Paddle. Today we are going to be doing something a little bit different. We are still in Maine, along the Saco River at a friend's house. We're not going to be doing any reading today, but I'll pray us in, and Ashley and I are going to discuss our IVF journey with you. We know there's a lot of differing opinions among the religious community about IVF, but we're going to tell you our story and just let you know where we stand on it, what we experienced, and how we're doing today. So, I'll pray us in and we'll get started. Lord, thank you so much for this beautiful day. Thank you for the opportunity to be out here. Thank you for this gorgeous view. Thank you for this time together. Thank you for our safe travel so far, and please bless us with safe travels on the way back. Lord, and please just help us reach anybody who needs to hear what we have to say today, and please let us be a blessing to anyone that needs this. And Lord, please give us the words to say, and give us soft hearts, and just bless this time that we have together. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
So, I guess we could say we started in 2020. It was not long after we met that we knew that we wanted to have children together. So we decided in August of 2020 that we would begin to try to have children. And things didn't go smoothly to begin with. How many months did we go before we decided to seek help?
About 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
So we thought that, given my occupation as a lineman and frequent electrical shocks and things like that, and some previous testicular trauma in my life, we thought that it was probably an issue with my fertility, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and also testing a male is
yeah,
less invasive to start out, so that's kind of where we needed to start.
Yeah, so I went and got tested after about 6 months of trying.
Mm-hmm.
And it did come back
like
low.
on the lower side of normal.
The count was a little low, but not enough to really explain the fertility struggles. So also in that, this isn't exactly part of the fertility thing, but right, in that they discovered blood in my urine and potential kidney issues, things like that, and it just started a whole whirlwind of urology visits, which were terrible. But that is definitely not a story for this session.
Mm-hmm.
But so not much longer after that, we sought out help.
Well, you got a second opinion on the...
Yep, I got a second opinion from a different clinic.
Mm-hmm.
And those results were more normal.
Yeah,
those were normal results.
So then we're kind of at square one, and I guess it's my turn to start doing the fertility testing. And at that point, we're about a year invested in trying. And so the first thing for me is just lots of blood work. An is it HSG? I think it's an HSG.
HSG is a very invasive procedure.
Yeah.
Hysterosalpingogram.
Yeah. So I'd say probably next to childbirth, that was probably one of the most traumatic medical experiences that I went through, is doing that testing. And everything that I did came back inconclusive of a problem.
Yep. So after all these tests, we began to try the timed intercourse method at the instruction of this doctor. Um, I forgot to mention, we're not going to be mentioning names. We're not going to be mentioning names of doctors, clinics, anything. We're just going to tell our story, I guess, anonymously. Everyone but us will remain anonymous in this tale.
Yeah.
So, at the instruction of our doctor, we began attempting the timed intercourse method. We were going in for continuous testing to see when she was ovulating, and all this. It was
a lot of monitoring and blood work, and
monitoring, blood work, and it was always a drive, always a struggle to get in on time and
get the results on time.
Yeah, getting results on time.
Find a lab.
And it just there was almost no support. It was almost worse than just trying to do it ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided that we would seek out help elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went to a more reputable place, or at least a more outspoken place.
Yeah.
You hear about it a lot more. So we went there, but we weren't able to get in right away.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry about the camera. My hand's getting tired here, but
we had made the appointment, or I forget what just like the initial consult call. I think we made the appointment in August, and it was set for December. So leading up to that, we went to this other clinic and just with crushing results, and not getting anywhere. So I was so glad that there was just something inside that said keep that consult appointment.
Yeah. So then we had the consult, we had the initial visits, and already we felt so much more supported. Mm-hmm. And we jumped right into the process. There was no more waiting period after that.
Mm-hmm. We decided to go directly into IVF. We didn't try IUI or anything else. We were just ready. We were ready to go.
Yep. So I'm trying to think what the timeline was for the retrieval. Like, when did that take place? So, I mean, we did the testing and stuff first, and they did all the testing in-house. So that was awesome.
So that was any blood work or anything I needed was in-house. So it just made things quicker. Our retrieval was on February 4th of 2022.
22, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I mean, like I was telling you the other day, like that was probably the most alone I ever felt in my life, was laying on that OR table waiting for that to happen, because I was terrified.
Yeah. I was in the building with her, but they wouldn't let me back into the operating room for cleanliness reasons, obviously. But that was one thing that was a little disappointing to me, is the lack of communication there also.
Mm-hmm.
I'm waiting in the waiting room. I have no idea of how things are going. I was nervous for you. And they just came in and said, all right, bring the car around. And didn't tell me how anything went, and didn't tell me anything about it until you got in the car and told me what had happened and how things turned out.
I mean, it didn't go bad. It just I just felt very alone and scared of what the outcome was going to be, and if we were going to get enough eggs. And also during that retrieval procedure, it was recommended to have hysteroscopy, just not because they didn't see anything on any of my scans that were like causes for concern, but just wanted to be 100% sure that
your uterus was a hospitable environment for an embryo.
So because we did that at the time of retrieval, we couldn't do a fresh transfer. We had to wait another cycle. So we had whatever we would get from that, we'd have to do a frozen transfer.
Yeah. Okay, so fast forward to the following month.
Well, no. I'd say that weekend, the next day after the retrieval, they give you an initial call from embryology to just tell you where you stand. And I knew when we left the retrieval, when I woke up, they tell you how many eggs they retrieved, and for us it was only 6, and I was devastated by that.
Yeah.
I was devastated. And then the next morning, within 24 hours, they call you and they tell you, the status of all those eggs. And they told us that we had 3 that were mature. So out of the 6, only 3 were mature or, had the potential to be fertilized. And that 2 were fertilized. And that was all the update we got. So I was devastated. Like I cried so hard, because at that point I thought we're either going to have 2 or 1 or none, because anything could have happened at that point. They had to wait to 3 days to see where they stood.
And that's a fairly average number, but a lot of people get very high numbers, a very large amount of eggs that are retrieved and fertilized. I'm actually really grateful that didn't happen for us, given our views. We believe that life starts at conception. So, those are 3 potential lives for sure.
Right.
But so we fast forward a month to when. Almost.
No, I would go back to day 3. It was actually my birthday, and we were waiting for the embryology report to know really how many made it and how many we were going to have.
Right.
And that was scary, waiting for it. But I just remember I kept refresh. My sign-in for the fertility clinic, and we were both working at home that day. And then I said, hey, it's in. So we came down to my office and we just held hands and brought it up on the screen, and we found out that we had 3 embryos, and I didn't know that was going to be a possibility, that 3rd one would end up getting fertilized.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest win for us at that point.
Those 3 embryos symbolized hope. That was the first step forward.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first moment in which we weren't just stagnant anymore. We actually had progress toward our goal of having children.
And just, I don't know, sheer joy, because finally there was something in the world that existed that was half of each of us.
Yeah. Now it's no, there was still in the back of your mind, there's no guarantee that it's going to work on any of those attempts.
Right.
It's still about, it was like 50-50, right? Those are the stats on whether the IVF works or not. It's typically about 50-50. So not the greatest odds, really.
No.
But okay, so now we can fast forward a month.
Yeah.
Okay, now we'll fast forward a month to
ish.
When we're at the point in her cycle where we can do the first transfer. So they have the embryos graded, and so they put what they consider the best one in. And then that's not as invasive. They don't put you out for that. They just it's pretty quick.
It's very close to getting just an ultrasound.
The guy that owned the place did that one. The guy that started it, and very quick, very clinical, very not personal. Not that that's super important, but people who are in there are really struggling psychologically and emotionally, and some bedside manner really goes a long way. So not the best, not the greatest, but doesn't matter. We'll move on. So
at that point we're really hopeful, because we've just gotten as far as we've ever gotten,
Yeah. So how long did we have to wait before you go back in for the test?
So that transfer was on March 2nd, and then my HCG, blood work panel to find out if it worked was on the 14th of March.
Right.
I think it's just because where the weekend fell. It's usually around 11 or 12 days that they do the blood work testing.
Yeah.
So we kind of made it a big production and took that day off.
Yeah, we took that day off. Honestly, I thought that we were going to be celebrating.
Yeah.
That's just kind of the way we are. I'm an optimist. She's a pessimist. She'll say she's a realist, but that's not true. She's a pessimist.
Just kind of preparing myself, you know.
Yeah. And then we did the stupidest thing that you could possibly do and went and bought a pregnancy test to test ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we did. And it came back negative. And it was devastating.
Mm-hmm.
So then we have to wait for a phone call, which we already know the result of.
Mm-hmm.
So then when you get that phone call, you get beat down again. And yes, I know that we still had 2 more chances. But that's, some hope is dashed.
Mm-hmm.
When you finally are able to take a step forward and you have to take a step back, you're not, you don't have a choice. You have to step back, and then you have to try to take that step again. So the second one, and this is kind of where the spiritual journey could have started. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So the second transfer, we come in and it's a different doctor this time. He sits down with us and says, "Do you mind if we pray before this?" So he held our hands and we sat there and we prayed, and that's not something that Ashley and I would have ever done. We weren't religious people. We didn't really pray for anything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe in silence in private or something, just for mere chance. But I digress.
Mm-hmm.
So
it was just a completely different.
Yeah, it was a completely different
vibe, a completely different experience.
He was invested in us and how we were feeling, and he wanted to pray with us because he knew it would help.
Yeah.
So we did. We prayed.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that one felt different anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, there was still the aspect of hope, and there was, we had gotten beaten down the last time, so we weren't going to let ourselves build it up quite as much.
Mm-hmm.
But it still felt different.
Yeah.
And then, like the day that you went in to get the testing, and then when we're supposed to receive the results, you were already defeated.
All day I was just defeated.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't feel any different. Like, I feel like I would know if it worked, and what are we going to do next? Like, now we only have 1 chance left. Do I have to go through the retrieval process all over again? Like, financially, what are we going to do?
Right.
Just devastated and just feeling defeated. Like, so defeated, deflated, just couldn't stop crying all day. Like, what are we going to do? And, and also watching the clock all day for that call, and it wasn't until like 3:30 in the afternoon or something when you see the phone light up and you see who's calling, and it's like, ooh, like
yeah.
And
it was positive.
Yeah, the nurse, I don't remember the first words. It's just like, she was like, is this Ashley? Like, how are you? And I'm just like, fine. Like, what? Like, what is it? What?
Spit it out, lady.
Yeah. Because I was just waiting for her to say, like, I'm so sorry. I waited for the words, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, but la la la. And she didn't say that. She said, like, our numbers were 257.
Yeah. And it still didn't register.
And it just like, what?
Yeah.
And it's just like, congratulations, and scheduling me to come back for, the 48-hour follow-up testing and keep going with your meds. And I didn't hear a word she said to me.
Right.
And just complete, just tears of joy and just disbelief. Like,
yeah. And then the support afterwards. The support afterwards was a big deal too. You get, it was weekly ultrasounds, and
Right.
you know, there's constant monitoring to make sure everything's going all right, which was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So we definitely should fast forward to you want to talk about Henry's birth, and then we'll have to be quick with it a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, just fast forward, like, it was a rough pregnancy.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I guess I felt robbed in some way, because it took so much to get him, and then the end was just so miserable, because I ended up with preeclampsia and ended up taking, you know, ambulance to a bigger hospital and had to stay there for a week and get induced, like, you know, kind of forced evacuation, and I just didn't feel like myself. I felt disgusted with myself. I didn't take hardly any pictures while I was pregnant. Like, I didn't capture it, and it was just, I mean, such big milestones that we finally got to. And but he was born at 34 weeks and 1 day, and we had to endure a NICU stay.
Yeah, it was very tough, and I guess, well, it's all important. Like, yes, the childbirth part isn't exactly part of IVF. I mean, that's the goal of IVF, but that's not part of the struggle of IVF.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of skipped the struggle of IVF, the psychological torment of constantly getting stabbed with needles,
right,
every single day of your life, multiple times a day.
Mm-hmm.
It was very traumatic for her, physically and psychologically.
And then even when it doesn't physically hurt to get poked by a needle, like, it's like I would still cry, just because I was just like, I'm so sick of doing this, and I wish this didn't have to be the way, you know, and just emotionally exhausted. Just,
and for me, I hate causing her pain. I really do. I hate seeing her in pain, even when I haven't caused it.
Mm-hmm.
So giving you the shots was the worst part of the process for me.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing you emotionally distraught at any of the occasions, which was often. It was often. We were often overwhelmed with everything that was going on. Despair.
Mm-hmm.
But even after you were pregnant, we still had to continue some of the injections, and there were times where I couldn't find a patch of skin, especially with the intramuscular we were doing on your butt.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't find a patch of skin that wasn't bruised or had a previous hole.
I know.
It's like, what do you do? Well, this is gonna hurt. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And just move on with your lives. And that was the hardest part, was moving on every single day, making that choice and just move on. Don't dwell on this. Don't wallow in this. But we really, really clung to each other, and that's the important part, and that's what we really want to convey in this recording, is struggles in your life, in your marriage, can drive you apart so easily. And you have a choice. You have a choice to stand by one another, to hold each other, to support each other, even if you're upset with each other, even if you're sensitive and something that wouldn't normally bother you bothers you, and you lose your mind on somebody. You have to make the choice to get over it and push forward and hold one another and love one another. And we became masters of that.
Yeah.
And we carried that through to the NICU stay as well, as a very stressful time.
Yeah.
And most people would want to stay there with their child, and we did want to stay there with him, but we had other kids at home who were in school, who needed our attention, who needed, they needed things from us, and we could not just stay the night. in the NICU with our son like we
Right.
wanted to. But they had a very good staff in there, and we trusted those nurses a lot, and we formed a very good relationship with them, so that made it a little bit easier. But those hour-long drives to and from the NICU, we took that time to talk with one another, express exactly how we were feeling, and we got so close throughout that struggle. Marriages aren't made in the good times. They're forged in the bad ones. And if you don't struggle, if you've never struggled and never tested your marriage, you're missing out. Really.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's like the best of times, the worst of times. Like,
Yeah.
I know even after it was done, I would think about, I miss that. Not, I don't want my son being in the NICU, but
Yeah.
I miss that connection that we had every day going through that together. And we wouldn't have been as strong as we were if we didn't go through the IVF journey and or fertility journey.
Exactly.
And just really hold on to each other. And I remember those drives, like, even though we just went through so much trauma, getting pregnant, the pregnancy, the birth, you know, and being in the NICU, I still felt like something was missing. Like, I'm not done with this yet.
Right.
Like, I'm so happy we got our son, but it just, there's something, I don't know. There was still a little hole, I guess.
Yeah. And we knew immediately. I mean, we discussed it while we were still driving back and forth to the NICU that we wanted another baby.
Right. I mean, at that point, just we could have all the babies. We'd have all the babies together.
Yeah. There's just this primal urge when you really love someone. You just, all you want to do is see somebody in this world that you've made together. You want to see that person in the eyes of your child. When you look at that kid, you want to,
and I mean, we got a taste of that, and I knew we weren't done. I knew we weren't done.
Yeah, right. But we feel that God was using that to strengthen us. He knew that we were going to need strength for the NICU stay, so he put us through IVF. He knew that we were going to need strength in our marriage, so he put us through a miserable pregnancy. He knew that we would need strength in our lives, and he put us through the NICU stay. But he brought us through them. He gave us the strength together, not alone. Neither one of us was strong enough to make it through that.
No.
But we were strong enough together.
Yeah.
And God brought us through it together and stronger.
So I guess fast forward again. And we start, planning our wedding and booked the venue, got the dress, making all these plans, and kind of mentally saying, okay, after that, we're going to go back and we're going to, I guess, because we thought that was the only way, is go through IVF again. And just kind of preparing for that and dreading it at the same time. Like, I can't even imagine doing that and doing the calls and the testing.
But knowing what to expect this time.
Right. Not walking in blind.
Yeah, in a way it was easier knowing what to expect, and in a way it's harder knowing what to expect because you know how bad it could be.
Right.
But
so that was gonna be the goal. Like, once we got after our wedding, we were gonna, get back at it with the fertility clinic. And 2 months before our wedding date, we found out that we were pregnant naturally, and that was just, I was in complete shock. I took 5 tests. Like, there's no way that these are all broken. So unexpected, and just so thankful that I guess that we didn't have to go through that process, but also terrified again.
And what a blessing that was.
Right. And then, fast forwarded to our anatomy scan,
Oh, yeah.
our anatomy scan for, and normally you go and they look at all the different parts of the baby, and then you also can find out
Gender.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, going into it, I knew what I wanted to happen.
Yeah, we knew we wanted a girl. We definitely did. Yes, we'd be happy with either, but we wanted a girl. I've never had a biological daughter, so I wanted a girl bad, and
Yes.
she was.
Yeah, I mean, so when the text said, it's a girl,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
crying hard, and to the point where she thought something was wrong with me.
I hope this is
But
okay.
Right. But I mean, just my world was made.
Yeah.
That day.
And then we get in the car afterwards, and Isn't She Lovely was playing on the radio, so that was more tears.
Yeah.
But yeah, incredible, and that was an incredible journey too. But I think the rest of that needs to wait for another video.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna run out of time on the card.
Okay.
But the point is, IVF, though difficult, painful, trying, it's the reason we are as strong as we are. One of the reasons, one of many, and it's the reason Henry is in the world. And it was certainly an incredible starting point for our journey of faith. So I guess we should sign off at that.
Okay.
Thank you guys for watching. I'm so happy that you tuned in. I hope this could be helpful to you. I don't know if you're struggling, but if you are, allow it to strengthen you. Submit to the struggle, accept it, and allow it to strengthen you as a couple. So, love you guys. God bless you, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.